allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public on items that are not agenda? Seeing none, are there any corrections to the agenda or consent calendar?
We do have two corrections to the agenda. We are pulling action item number 60, 1561 Grizzly Mountain Sewer Connection. The person who was going to appear before the board today asked that item be pulled. And then we also will not be having a grant update.
Okay.
That will come back, though, in possibly the next, but at the latest, the first meeting in October. The grant coordinator is just out field today.
Okay. Adoption of the consent calendar. Are there any comments from the public? No? From the board? Do we have a motion?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Okay, no consent items moved forward. Should we do those?
And that motion passes unanimously.
Okay, that moves us to item 6A, computerized maintenance management system, software selection. Julie.
Good afternoon. I am very excited to be here before you today to talk about implementation of our next work order system platform. We've been working on this for a few years now. It's been a large committee, including engineering, IT, and representatives from every department of operations to select our new platform for the work order system. We've been with Maintenance Connections since 2008, and this is a smaller platform that has always been lacking in full features for a work order system, but it's a big effort to change that system. So we were contacted by Maintenance Connection a couple of years ago and told that they were moving away from the support of linear assets, so all those pipes in the ground. We're not going to do their focus anymore. They were really focusing on stations and the vertical assets, buildings and things like that. So it became clear to us that this was no longer going to be a fit for the district into the future. Our current system doesn't have mapping capabilities, so when our crews are out in the field and working on assets, they're having to look up asset ID numbers and type them in order to log the information against the correct asset, things like that. The mobile capabilities have always been really limited. So all these things kind of put the writing on the wall for us that we were going to need to make a change. So in 2023, we began working with Isle Utilities. This is, you've heard us mention this consulting firm before. They're really focused on pairing technologies with water, wastewater utilities to help us modernize and advance. And through our involvement in their technical advisory, technical acceptance group, we learned that they had worked with Contra Costa Water District to identify and select their new work order platform, and we got really good feedback about the service that they had provided. So we convened the committee in-house, and they provided us with a long list of options of different capabilities. They helped us shorten that list to 8, and then to 4, and then finally down to 2 platforms in major consideration. So we narrowed it down to NextGen, which is the system that we've selected, and Cartograph, which is a product offered by OpenGov. There's some differences between these platforms, and we really did a deep dive on both platforms to see, what really met our needs. NextGen is set up as sort of a one-stop shop kind of umbrella platform where with the license you get access to and then you can pick and choose which of the tools that you put to use. But you can have a very robust system or a very streamlined system, and that's really our choice. Also the same cost. Cartograph is a different model where it's modular based, and so with every added functionality, you're adding to the bill. And so anyway, between kind of liking the flexibility of this umbrella model that NextGen offers, the fact that at the demo, the vast majority of our staff preferred the tools and presentation that NextGen had to offer. The fact that NextGen was really built as a water wastewater platform from the ground up, and that we've gotten good feedback from other users of the platform, including Incline Village. They use NextGen. All these contributed to the final selection of NextGen. And I got to really give credit to Bren for her strong negotiating with NextGen and with Cartograph. When we came into this, it appeared that NextGen was going to be far more expensive a platform than Cartograph would be, and that was another factor that we really were paying attention to, is what's this platform going to cost us. She got the two products to get very much in line on their costs today. We've also got some good constraints within our contract. NextGen is going to be limited to no more than a 5% annual increase for our yearly subscription. So, so next steps, I'm here to ask for approval to proceed into the implementation phase. The schedule that we have laid out with NextGen will replace all the functionality that Maintenance Connection currently has by next May. The idea is we want to get the tools in the hands of the operators by the start of next grading season. Then after May 1, we can proceed to the second phase of the rollout, which will be building some of those tools that Maintenance Connection doesn't currently have, so that we can, modernize and get beyond the limitations of Maintenance Connection. We've got the contract for the implementation attached to the agenda item here. We're looking at $520,000 for this implementation and integration. It also includes training and the development of reports for the tools. So anyway, it's a fairly steep price tag, but like I said, it's similar to Cartograph, the other products that we're looking at. And then after the implementation phase, we'll start into our annual licensing periods, and that'll start at $75,000 a year for 25 concurrent users. That's pretty much it. Are there any questions?
So it sounds like the first expenditure is really the cost associated with getting staff trained up, getting all of our information ported from the previous system to this system.
Yeah, and including some key integrations with other platforms. One thing that this NextGen is going to offer us that we always wanted from Maintenance Connection but never was able to have was that the work order system would sort of be the hub for all the information about our assets. Talking to GIS, talking to our accounting system, talking to the other tools that we have in place like SCADA, and really become a hub for not only tracking our own work, but helping us to make good decisions about where to spend our capital improvement funds moving forward, a full asset management kind of platform. So it gets us started down that path for setting that up.
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing about this process for a while in the Operations Committee, so kind of been tracking that. And I do appreciate the thoroughness of the review and looking for opportunities to integrate it across the district into different departments. So I think it sounds like we've achieved some of that, and there's probably room for growth, having the kind of buffet option where you get everything, and it's just how much you're willing to eat and bite off. So I encourage you to look, for everyone to kind of continue to look at opportunities for process improvement and just modernization. It's a good step, and I think it's a necessary investment to gain some efficiencies and modernization. So, good work.
Good job with the negotiation as well.
Yeah, she did a great job.
That budgeted amount is always greatly appreciated, so good work for that.
Are there any comments from the public on this item?
Would you like me to read the action? Sure. I'm requesting that the board approve implementation of NextGen as our replacement computerized maintenance management system platform and authorize the general manager to execute the contract with NextGen in the amount $520,400.
So moved.
I'll second.
Great. Thank you, Julie. Okay, next up is 6B, critical well pump and motor inventory. Mark?
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Silas, Water Resources Manager. As you know, we have a critical need for continuous operation of our high-capacity well systems. For example, if we lost Bayview well or any two of Paloma, El Tahoe, and Glenwood well, we wouldn't be able to meet our max daily demand in the state line zone. And similarly, if we lost two of our three largest wells in the Myers area, we wouldn't be able to meet our max daily demand there. And so it's really important for us to be able to address any motor failures really promptly as they happen. However, most of our large wells use 4-pole motors that have lead times of around 1 year. And our Bayview well in particular uses a really specialized piece of equipment. It's a 4,000-volt motor. It's only available from one manufacturer, and the lead time is about a year for that as well. And so at the end of the day, a motor failure in one of our large wells could take up to a year to address, which to us is an unacceptable risk to our water system. We don't have the operational flexibility to accommodate that. And so despite the really long lead times that we have for Byron Jackson and Flowserve motors, we've seen that they've had exceptional reliability in our system. Some examples of this are that the current Bakersfield well motor has been running strong for 30 years. Our Paloma well submersible motor ran for 25 years before we retired it as part of the rehab project. It didn't fail. We just retired it because it was old and had mercury seals, which put the well at risk in the event of a failure. And then our Byron Jackson motor at Elks Club well has run for about 22 years now. And we've seen that with other brands, we've had to have frequent replacements of well motors. An example of this is that in the last 10 years at Valhalla well, we've had to replace the submersible motor 3 times. And the average lifespan of our non-Byron Jackson submersible motors is 13 years. So it's much, much less than what we're seeing for Byron Jackson, almost half. And so even though these motors have really long lead times often, we think that their reliability justifies this, and that it would be safer to have a backstop of very reliable parts rather than to be using readily available but less reliable parts. And so as part of this, I'm going to be seeking authorization to standardize on Byron Jackson for our large wells. So these backstop motors that we have that we would have could be used in the event of a failure, but they could also be used for planned replacements during our well asset management program where convenient, and that would help us kind of rotate them out on the shop or on the shelf so they don't sit too long. And so I've been working with the manufacturer and with our operations department to establish our needs. And so we've been reviewing testing data and thinking about where do we actually need this backstop of motors for, what are our critical wells, what motors do we have that show indications of that they might be failing soon. And we've come up with a need for a spare pump and motor at Bakersfield well, Bayview well, and Elk Club well. and then also a spare motor that could be used interchangeably either at Sunset Well or Valhalla Well in the event that one of those failed. So, as I said, I'm working with the manufacturer on a cost estimate. Right now, an estimate without the submersible wire or freight is about $604,000. It's looking like the total is going to be under $700,000, but for safety, I'll be asking for authorization not to exceed $720,000. Note that this is significantly less than what was on the agenda item at $920,000. And so I'm happy to answer any questions about this before reading.
Yeah, I have a quick question, Mark. So is the plan to buy all of these at once, or is there an outlay that's staggered?
So we would buy them all at once, and then we would receive them based on their lead time. And so, you know, the lead times range anywhere from about 12 weeks to about 44 weeks.
This is also another topic to discuss about. We need quite a bit. The assuring that we have that we have available on these motors.
Absolutely, I can confirm that. I mean, this has been definitely something that's been weighing on us just for redundancy and concern about some of our motors in their life. So appreciate turning this around pretty quickly in terms of a plan and a course of action. So thanks.
For Arrowhead Sunset Valhalla, in terms of lifespan, where are those?
So we replaced the Valhalla Well motor in 2021, and that was one that I can't really say what the lifespan of that is because we've had a lot of issues with that well. Like that was one that we've replaced it 3 times in 10 years. But we should expect about a 15-year lifespan out of that motor if all goes well. Sunset Well, that was replaced, I think, around like 2012 or something, so we're kind of coming up on the end of its life right now. And then Arrowhead, we actually decided to keep the existing motor, that one that's not interchangeable with those two, so since the board agenda item was published, so that's actually changed. So it's only going to be interchangeable at 2 wells now, not 3.
And I mean, just ask a stupid question. There's no kind of shelf life concerns with having a well sit for 2, 4, 5 years in the event these go past their shelf life?
No, so the one concern would be that it would likely go out of warranty. But we're basically looking at taking a risk either way. So either we risk that it goes out of warranty and we don't have continued support on it, or we risk that we don't have it when we need it. And we kind of see that as a risk worth taking. But then we'd also correspond with the manufacturer and make sure that we're following the manufacturer's recommendations for storage and maintenance. And so a lot of the time you'll want to go in and you'll spin the rotor of the motor or the pump to make sure that it stays lubricated. We could do Megger testing of the motors as they're on the shelf to make sure that they're not deteriorating over time, keeping records to make sure that they're staying in good condition. But to answer your question, no, they shouldn't really have a shelf life as long as we install, or as long as we store them properly and exercise them properly. They should be good when we need them.
And what's the standard warranty time?
It's 1 year usually.
1 year.
Yeah, which honestly, like a lot of the time they're out of warranty before we're able to install them anyway, and so.
So pump warranties work as well as all warranties then?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
The warranty is not once you install it, it's once you buy it.
It's usually a year from install or 2 years from purchase, or a year and a half from purchase or something like that. But yeah, it just happens since a lot of our pumps and motors are installed as part of projects. But that's the first thing that the contractor does, procure them. They usually sit around for quite a while before we're able to install.
And then can we use our new next-gen system to kind of track their shelf?
Love to, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, just again, this is something we've been talking about in the operations committee, and this is really important in terms of just being able to come back online quickly. So thank you again for turning this around so quickly. Are there any comments from the public or anything else you want to add, Mark? Seeing none? Yeah.
So number 1, authorize Flowserve to be the exclusive brand and sole source provider for submersible pumps and motors installed in production wells with capacities of 1,000 gallons per minute and greater. And number 2, authorize staff to negotiate a contract with Flowserve for the purchase of inventory pumps and motors for critical water supply wells in an amount not to exceed $720,000.
I'll make that motion and just note that it is limited to $720,000, not what's published on the agenda. So with the modification.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is item 7, standing and ad hoc committees and liaison reports.
No, I don't have anything.
I don't either. Okay. Moving on. Any board member reports?
Just quickly, I noticed in the Tribune and South Tahoe now the press release regarding the rate relief options. I was glad to see that move forward. Speaking with Ryan, one, glad to hear Ryan's health as well, but then more broadly, kind of the targeted outreach. And so kind of echoing what Shane said with the last comment, you know, jumping on that and moving it through has been excellent. So that was really positive to see this morning.
Yeah. So just to follow up on that, I was going to talk about that a little bit in the GM report, but I'll just follow it now. So at some point in the near future, we'll see what the utilization of it is, and then we'll be able to compare that to the initial amount approved of $50,000 to see if we want to tweak it at some point in the future.
Okay, moving on to staff attorney reports. I think we dropped 9A, so we're moving to 9B. Thank you, Lauren.
That down from shorter. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Lauren Benefield. I am the Water Conservation Specialist. I have a short presentation for you today with an update on our participation with Department of Water Resources Indoor Water Use Study that Shelley presented to you all on June 20th. So to refresh your memory, the Department of Water Resources continues to implement new regulations for making conservation a California way of life. Throughout this regulatory process, the district has volunteered to be a pilot for the outdoor landscape requirements, seasonal population variance, and water loss standards. We've learned that being a part of the development process ensures that Tahoe's unique climate and population are accounted for. Senate Bill 1157 directed the Department of Water Resources to conduct a study to quantify the benefits and impacts associated with indoor residential standards. As such, DWR has contracted with Flume and is looking for agencies around the state to be pilots. A little too quick. So the conservation team was initially interested in being a pilot as there is no cost to the district outside of a minimal staff time to support Flume. And we have a unique population base with full-time residents, part-time residents, and vacation homes. We have since agreed to work with Flume to invite enough customers to have 100 volunteers to install a free Flume device on their meter. These are essentially big watches with a rubber band around the top of the meter, and it records the flow every minute. The device uses homeowners' internet to transmit this granular data to a user-friendly app where customers can see their water use and be notified of leaks. This is different than RAMI data and Water Smart Portal due to the water leaks occurring so more frequently. The study also requires suppliers to give DWR 5 years of billing data. We know that there were some concerns around including personal identifiable information, that was a tongue twister, such as addresses. However, none of the information that we will send to Flume will include any of our customers' personal information. We'll send them the billing consumption and information we have on house size, number of bathrooms, year the house was built. This will help Flume to analyze how similar homes are using water across our service area and across the state of California. But once again, none of the information we will send will include personally identifiable information. The data collected from Flume around the state and the 5 years of billing data will be compiled into a report to DWR regarding whether the indoor water use standards are feasible or not. Flume will also be given will also give a report to water suppliers on how their customers are using water inside the home. So as mentioned, there's a little staff time required for the district's participation, but we wanted to make sure we were being as proactive as possible when preparing to participate. We have facilitated customer outreach by sending the email you see up on the screen to customers on August 22nd. Customers then voluntarily sign up. If they choose to sign up, they agree to the participation agreement. In addition to the email, staff sent out a press release, created a FAQ for customer service, created a FAQ article on Flume's website as well. When customers sign up, we'll send them an email with a map of where to locate their meter, because it can be a little tricky at times, and their meter's MXU number, so they can confirm that the device that they're actually putting Flume on is their water meter and not their neighbor's. And finally, we're going to send the 5 years of billing data to Flume. So far, as of this morning, we have 81 customers currently signed up out of 100. It's been amazing that people are so excited to be participating in this interline. So I want to walk you through what customers experience. So customers received the email on the last slide, and if they're interested, they would click on the link, taking them to this landing page. Are you guys all seeing that? See if I can get my mouse over there. There I am. Okay, so they would end up on this landing page. They will then click Get Our Offer. You can see over here that there's some information of that FAQ that I mentioned. So once they click Get Offer, it just shows them these steps. You'll see here that it does say that there's a $25 fee. This is a reservation fee. It's essentially a way for Flume to help try to incentivize people to install their device within 30 days. We did include on that FAQ for second homeowners, if they're not able to get up here within that 30 days, that they would be able to get that $25 back. They just need to contact Flume to let them know. But that's something we wanted to make sure of before we said yes. So click it once again, and then customers will then type in their information. And if they have a good account number, then they'll be directed to actually purchase. But if they are not, because they don't have a device that qualifies, it gives them this little message. Because this device only works with positive displacement meters, which are some of our older meters, and we're currently retrofitting with our ultrasonic. So head back. So once they sign up, customers will receive the email that you see up there, and an email from the district with a map of their meter location. If customers are having a hard time locating their meter, they can call customer service, and a meter tech will go and flag their meter location. So thank you all, and do you guys have any questions for me?
I guess I have a quick question. And maybe this is down the road, but I'd like to kind of know what we're going to do with some of the data. And I know we talked about, Tahoe, because if Jay's were here, we talked about, water restrictions in California when we don't really have a water problem. And so, I agree with that. It drives up our costs and everything else. I'm not opposed to, obviously, water conservation. However, when it begins to affect us from a rate standpoint and a cost of doing business standpoint, because of blanket regulation, that begins to be a problem for me. So just kind of what we're going to do with that data, and then that corresponding legislative strategy, other things to actually take action on our unique situation and modify things and create, carve-outs or special treatment or other things that we have data now to justify. So just really curious on that down the road here, how we're actually going to employ, beneficial changes for the district in terms of how a lot of these regulations and upcoming rules, and they're always changing, and how they they impact the district. So
Yeah,
that's what
that's a
I'm
great
interested
question.
in. Just
Yeah.
FYI.
So from, I guess, a smaller perspective of just looking at the district and not, for the whole state of California first. So for the district itself, I'm really interested personally to see how people are using water inside their houses because it's not something that we know. Water fixtures have certain signatures associated with their use. And so Flume was actually able to identify that. So for me, I think it's going to be pretty beneficial when it comes to what sort of programs are we looking to use. How many toilets in our service area are, more than a 1.28, which is what, you can purchase now. How many people are hand washing dishes? Because they did a study and apparently 80% of people are still hand washing dishes and it uses 4 times more water. I mean, personally, I would love to have a dishwasher as a renter, but, so that would be also interesting to see, how can we better serve our customers through seeing what do they need replacing inside their house to make their homes more efficient so that, they're using less water, so their bills aren't as high, so that we're not having to supply as much, especially during the summer months, when our water use triples. And then I guess looking at larger scope for the state of California, so SB 1157 did change some of the indoor water use standards. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. I think it's 42 or 47 gallons per person per day. And so that would come in 2030. And so it's just I think this would be really beneficial for seeing, is that going to be sustainable? How, are Californians actually using that little water already? Is that going to be too much of a decrease? And I think to have our service area a part of this, it's not just going to be Southern California and the Bay Area, which are a completely different type of water user than, what we see up here, a part of this study. Currently, Flume has 20 utilities a part of this study, and so I'm hoping that more from Northern California, they're looking for 50. I'm hoping that more from Northern California and also from the Central Valley will be included because I do think that their water use will also, add that extra layer. They're also looking, I guess, at the impact that it might have to wastewater systems because as we cut back on the amount of flow that's coming into treatment plants, how does that impact, how much you're treating and what does that do for your bugs and things like that. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, that's helpful, and I'm sure more will emerge in terms of the strategy going forward, so thank you.
I was just curious in terms of the ones that have signed up, do we have a notion of kind of that mix of primary residents versus second homeowners versus, I guess this is kind of limited just to residential properties?
Yeah, it's just single family residential. And so looking at the list, I'm just going to gauge this off of where people are having the device shipped. It's about 50-50 right now, which I think is really nice. So that personally, I'm very pleased by that.
More comments from the board? Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right. Paul, General Manager.
Just a couple of additional things. Wanted to point out that we had interviews on Tuesday for the principal engineer position. We had 3 really good qualified internal candidates, 1 external candidate. All 3 of the internal candidates did great interviews, and I do want to thank them all for putting that effort forward because it's a big job to go through our application process. But at the end of the day, the successful candidate was Megan Colby. So congratulations to her, and I'm sure she's going to do a great job for the district. And then just one other reminder, 2 weeks from today at the next board meeting, we will be doing the general manager review. So if you haven't got your review turned into Liz, please do that as soon as possible. She's going to compile all the data into one document, including my own. She asked me to do a self-eval, and so we'll have that.
What's the deadline again? For us to get us our stuff in?
Last week.
Last week?
I think it was 2 weeks ago, but.
I wish Liz was here. She would know I said to him last Thursday.
I guess I'm out of that. I got to get that done. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Agenda item 11, notice of past and present meetings. That's listed here. I guess that's it for us. We're going to adjourn.
Very quick closed session.
And go into closed session. Closed session with nothing to report. Meeting is adjourned.